Ladies and gentlemen, you thought we were done, but unfortunately we have another game because I'm excited for this one. We got a new pickup in terms of an organization. Shift just jumped into the Canadian scene, so we got that going for us. We also got Agony Esports coming up to face them. Now, these two qualifier teams kind of saw them in little different paths. Obviously, they both kind of went down, I think, into the lower bracket last that I remember. So we have a little bit of similarity here between these two teams. Super excited to get into this. I'm Jazzman, and this is fellow. I knew I would mess it up. I was like, I'm not gonna mess it up. This is fellow, newly introduced Challenger League caster. So congratulations on that. Excited to get into this game.
They don't know how much trolling I'll do Sunday. But since we're here for CCL, let's take a look at the rosters. You did mention Shift, formerly known as Shiesty, and now Agony. They didn't change their names. We can still talk about them. For Shift, we have Senpai, TK, I believe that is Maple, Xeno, and then also Zeroza, and then Devil, and then followed up for Agony, it is Taro, TS. I believe it's like, I don't know how you pronounce that one actually, to be honest, Jasmine, but you can give it your best attempt if you want to. Show GP2 and then FLS. The TSV, okay?
I'm assuming the T would be silent, right? Because why would it be not?
Svok?
Svok? It's like Svok? I don't care.
Perhaps.
You were the one who made the silly name, so if I mess it up, it's your fault.
Okay,
but
sounds good.
So Shift North coming in here, obviously a little bit of a difference between all five of these players on the left hand side of your screen. A few of them kind of just lingering around in T3, T4-ish. And then you have Devil, who is a CL experience, won SCS Season 3. He's got a little bit of accolade to his name. So very strong IGL, of course, very popular for that role. And it's a bit interesting, obviously, to have this player just kind of thrust in with a bunch of players that are still trying to develop themselves. A little bit of like a Pangu situation going on, but obviously Devil not a world champion or anything yet. So yeah, I'm interested to see how this roster is going to stack up against Agony, and I have not heard of any of these players, so I'm interested to see how they're going to play. If we're going to have an aggressive team, a passive team, maybe we might have a very well-structured team. And considering the maps we're going on to, fellow, I mean, maybe, just maybe, we'll see a lot of structure.
We might see the old strat books taken out, actually, because we have Bank, Villa, and then if we get to a third map, it's actually going to be Border. So right. The funny thing that I always mention about Bank, first and foremost, is the fact that, well, the play style of that map really didn't change despite the rework. You still like to go on those big extensive roams. You normally don't hold the site directly until you're forced to. So it's basically the same kind of play style like it was all the way back in 2020 before it actually received, you know, the map banned completely and taken out of the comp pool. So it's always a fun map to talk about, kind of reminisce. Villa hasn't changed all that much. Some teams either go for heavy roam or full util, normally nothing in the middle, and then Border, it's Border. They've got Bathroom, that's a good site now, and that's pretty much it. Other than that, the map didn't change. Kind of similar to Bank, funny enough.
Yeah, I like to compare it to Favela, not in Siege, but in Modern Warfare 2, in the fact that it's a very aggressive map. It is a map where playstyle is favored more than strategy is, and it's about how you maneuver around the map, because there's not a lot of places to rotate up, there's not a lot of places to roam. You kind of just have to go with what you've got, and a lot of the times what we see is teams just peek extremely aggressively and hold aggressive angles, and if they're in sight, they don't have any fear. They peek, they swing, they don't hold their positions, because honestly in Border it's really easy to fill whenever your defender dies, right? Like if a player dies half wall, you can probably run from the shield that's usually placed, kind of by the bomb chassis. If we're talking armory here, you can kind of run from that shield all the way over to half wall and just fill that position immediately, or just control it from a different angle. There's a lot of there's not a lot of positions where you can just rotate in and fill completely, and I think that's why we're going to be seeing like a really aggressive. That's why Border just is an aggressive S map. But obviously, it's a third map. It's a decider, and the two maps we have ahead of us, two completely polar opposites. Bank, very passive. Well, yeah, Bank is very strategy based. More, I wouldn't say passive, but it's strategy based more than it is Border. And Villa's kind of a mix of the two.
Yeah, Bank is a lot of give and take, what you're willing to give up a lot of times, especially if you're a team that loves to play throughout the entire map. Kind of like Cafe, you look at the bottom floor of lockers and then CCTV, kind of like the same thing as Double Kitchen on Cafe, where you want to take the whole map as your own and just kind of work your way back down into sight. Some teams don't like to take over the entire map unless it's with just like one roamer of a Vigil, for example. They might want to extend more into, for example, Blue Stairs. You can kind of think of that like VIP and White Stairs, for example. So there are a lot of similarities, funny enough, since the meta really hasn't changed, since we've seen all that playstyle of Cafe and then that transitioning back onto Bank when it got back in the comp pool. I think we're only waiting on a handful more of teams, or players I should say, in both teams, so we'll be starting up shortly. So that's a relief. And you did mention the aggression aspect of both playstyles here, since we don't know much about these two teams, very new to the comp scene. So maybe the bans could potentially favor that kind of playstyle as well, maybe more target bans. But the fact that we are still in the first week of CCL's regular season, there also is a chance that might not happen, and we'll just see default bans because really neither one of these teams knows much about each other from perspective, since it is only week 1.
Yeah, and like going back to past games, those aggressive playstyles that we were mentioning have also been really heavily punished. That aerial arise versus Newt Neuters game, all you saw was Newt Neuters just play structured and coordinated, and they shut down aerial almost every single time. So maybe that aggression isn't that favored, and obviously Border is kind of a map where you're forced to play aggressive. Playing kind of coordinated, it can be difficult, especially because it's just such a tiny map. There's not a lot of maneuverability, so you kind of just have to get your gun up and just make a play, because map controls everything, and especially because it's so tiny. I mean, if you have one room, you basically have the entirety of the above of the site. We're even thinking like vents and armor and all that. So we'll be going into our game, though. Obviously, we talked about Bank and how it is kind of like Cafe in the fact that you have to flush your defenders downstairs, and especially because the basement is the most popular site in the game at the moment in terms of Bank. Probably going to be seeing that a lot, but that just comes down to if Agony will decide to roam and if Shift can even drone that out.
Jackal ban first and foremost. In retrospect, it's not a horrible idea because you normally have to deal with that roam extension in some degree, no matter what site you're playing against as the attack. But I feel like Lion could have been a much better option. He's a very proactive operator, and if you can't utilize all of his EE1Ds, they can be useful during the post plant, whereas the Inox scanner, not that great when you get the diffuser down. But hey, better than a hard breach ban that you see all the time, like a Thatcher and a Kaid ban, so I'll take it, I suppose. The final ban I'm expecting, probably going to be that Mira. If not, then maybe a Valkyrie or Romai. All pretty feasible bans, especially for a map like Bank. So everything, honestly, but maybe the Jackal is slightly common. But even then, the Jackal, it has its good reasons, and so will the Valkyrie as well, since that will finally be confirmed.
Yeah, kind of going back to that Jackal ban. Obviously, Jackal is just... I don't like to talk about Jackal bans because for some reason they're still extremely common, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But I'll give it the credit, the benefit of the doubt on Bank, because Bank is a map that is just massive, and there's a lot of droning that you're going to have to do if you want to clear your roamers, and your cutoffs are going to have to be really well placed and also placed as quickly as possible. Otherwise, your roam is never going to get shut down. So seeing the Jackal ban, I mean, Jackal just makes that job 10 times easier because you can just spot out exactly where a defender is, and in most cases that defender rotates away. Now, we are going to be going upstairs this time for Agony. A little bit of an offsite in terms of the first site pick because the basement is just really, really strong. But at the same time, fellow, it is also the most played site probably in Bank, so maybe teams know how to play against it. Maybe this is just a little bit of a throw-off here for Agony, but we'll just have to wait and see. Another interesting thing, Echo is being brought as well. Operator that was popular a while ago kind of lost his play whenever his drones became visible, but can be useful in the right scenarios.
A lot of plant denial potential, especially since on this top floor site, smoke is very janky. There aren't a lot of situations where you're going to be in that close quarter proximity with the Mossberg unless you're playing very aggressive inside of Janitor. But even then, you could potentially get wall banged by somebody playing outside near the window rappel, and then you'll just die. Can't really do much about that unless you are cracked with the SMG-11. So not having to rely on that shotgun fully besides just rotation holes, like what Tree is doing right now in the mute, is probably the best option here for Agony. Their lineup looks pretty straightforward here for a top floor defense, and probably the reason why they wanted to go here first and foremost, not just to get a feeler round against Shift, but also the fact that we have a Kaid ban and both Maverick and Habana are allowed, so getting those hatches opened is going to be pretty much as easy as cutting through butter with a hot knife, essentially, Jazzman.
A lot. I mean, there's a lot of hatches that are just going to be gone within seconds. And Devil, well, speaking of gone within seconds, the Echo is completely gone. Utility wasted. No more plant denial on that front, but you still have C4s, and Devil's on for a second. All of this from main lobby, by the way. Devil literally pressured from ATMs and was able to secure a double kill. Even though he dies out, that is so much just gone on the side of Agony, all from one single room. Now, Shift is going to take this time to move themselves upstairs, but obviously a big proponent to this defense is going to be this elevator shield that GP2 is holding. He's got a shield as well as ADSs to be assumed, placed by Zvok, or however you pronounce his name. So now Shift are just going to get them, get a move on off of Devil's kills. Zerus is going to lose a lot of HP here, though, and Taro and GP2 are just holding on by a thread. even though Agony have lost a lot of HP, Shift are starting to kind of get forced back.
The lack of major utility to deny grenade play, this could be a big way to make things a potential 4 versus 2 and just force Agony to completely give up the A site. They have a couple of long angles they contend with, one player stacked up in Banana, but currently Janitor is in the pocket of Senpai, and as we see that plant go down as well by the Ace, things looking quite swell. Tree manages to remove that pressure inside of Janitor, but it's still a post-plant position with Shift now reclaiming the lead as Taro actually ends up getting down, and TK finds a pick on towards Tree as well.
3 versus 2, and they've got the repel as well. Sorry, 3 versus 1 rather. GP2 is all on his lonesome. He does take down TK. However, it is just going to be so much time wasted on this player on repel. That is the second kill, though, here for GP2. Now he's just got to predict the repel, but I'm not sure if he's going to be able to do this. Going to have to fake the plant here, and he's going to go for it. What the heck? You would not have had enough time to retake there. I guess he just wanted to kill. GP2 gets a little greedy. Off a triple, is not able to win the round. There was a big hole in the defense there, though, fellow. I don't know if you noticed it, but Agony, they had zero control of that janitor closet. The only player that was sitting there was Tree, and he got refragged off of his kill. And after that, Shift were just able to punch a hole through the site and get themselves in. That's a round there for Shift, and a pretty decisive one.
Really gotta wonder why we didn't have that revive happen, because you could have just had your lower player go on that defuse, yeah, and the other person could have just ran out of the window. Maybe just missed a couple of extra steps there, but it happens. Again, it is that feeler round, and now they understand that Shift, they are going to be trying to work for that early pick without, really trying to show the rest of their hand towards the beginning of that action phase. So at least Agony have that hindsight moving into round number 2, which actually will be on the basement, still having a very similar lineup. The only major change is that we have an Oryx on the board in the hands of GP2, which can allow for that high mobility around the map. There's tons of hatches on bank, so having that Oryx in pocket, not only with the ability to hop through those hatches, and also having a very potent gun of that T5 with a 1.5, I mean, it's just going to make the attackers' lives a living hell if they want to actively clear out this guy.
Yeah, and especially because just having a roam presence on bank is super duper useful, because it's just difficult to drone out. GP2 is taking this up a notch. He is basically going to break Shift's minds, because he can fly up hatches. Any position that you expect to lock down, or any position was like, oh, Oryx is downstairs, he can't possibly go anywhere else, and he just flies up a hatch. So it's going to be confusing here. If they can't catch out GP2 very early on, it could be a lot of pressure, and you can see, speaking of pressure, he'll be droned out and forced away from Trump, and well, the pressure's gone. Shift, they've been very efficient whenever it comes to getting their opening frags. They'll do it in nearly about over 30 seconds, but that's all of your own presence gone.
Do have a couple of castle barricades to deal with, and of course Taro, quite literally on the castle, potentially, but he is isolated now that Oryx has fallen. So it might be a better option just to try to add a bit of fake pressure and then fall back, but it looks like they already have a crossfire established with someone sitting inside of electrical, so there isn't much really for Taro to do. Now crouched behind the little half wall inside of kitchen, a grenade will get tossed out by Senpai, and there isn't much left for the lone castle. He does find one onto TK, but eventually will get refragged, so still a very solid position here for Shift. They can now open up those main hatches and then begin to work their way lower, maybe get that hard destruction down on the CCTV wall, and go for a relatively default-esque kind of setup in this last minute 30.
Really confusing strategy, I feel like, coming out here from Agony. They just kind of had two roamers split away from each other, holding kind of obscure positions. I mean, Taro was literally locked inside of Cafe, and there was really not much he was doing there. I get he was pressuring the hatches, but that's one man with zero utility except for his own castle barricades. How long is he going to last against a triple nade or a double nade setup? Like, that's just, I don't know. It felt a little weird to me, but unfortunately it does not work out, and that's two players gone as a result of that failed roam. But they do take TK, but still, nades completely on the side of Shift, and we talked about how important those nades are going to be, fellow. If you get the proper burn in, if you're able to just clear out Agony's positions, which haven't been very difficult, at least from last round, should be a pretty good execute coming out here from Shift.
Still plenty of time as well, and those grenades, like you and I both have now mentioned, hatch pressure established too. Zers finds a pretty vital pick. The Okais are still on the board, but we have the Jaeger trying to get aggressive here, essentially by themselves until the Echo can get proactive. He just tries to vault through the rotate hole and now falls, leaving only Svog left to stand. Finds a second one, but it's still 2v1, and now only the Ace is left to stand. Has to whip out the pistol, though, in a very challenging position here. 20 seconds left, and now Maple has to go for a very aggressive play against this Jaeger, and thankfully they win that gunfight. A close call indeed, but it looks like Shift will now claim another round on their offenses, Jazz.
Spock was inches away from shutting down Shift, but regardless, I do think that Shift are making, or sorry, Agony rather, are just making a lot of pretty noticeable mistakes here. I mean, they have just been giving up sight basically for free and giving up lives early on. That's the second time where we saw 2 kills to 1 in the favor of Shift with only a minute down. That cannot be happening this early on in Bank, especially because Bank is all about how much time you can waste. You have to just dwindle down the clock so that Tree becomes effective, so that your C4s become effective. They're even bringing in Echo, for Christ's sake. They have to have so much delay in order to make this strategy work, and 2 players gone within a minute? And all they had to burn was a little bit of nades and maybe just 1 player. A 2-to-1 trade like that, especially with the way Shift have been playing, not ideal. And Agony, I get the idea of a roam. It makes sense. But you've got to keep your lives, and you've got to waste as much time as possible. We will be seeing a mirror brought out as well, maybe to reinforce a little bit more site structure, maybe to just make site a little bit less easy to take, because Shift have been walking in recently.
Really gotta wonder the idea of the shield, though. I feel like that's going to be more of a problem for Show if he's sitting on that mirror window or potentially Tree. Normally the smoke is the person who's actually in the middle of that bar hallway. So really gotta wonder that. Maybe it's to make sure they don't get wall banged through the soft wall, perhaps. But that, again, that could lead to more problems than actually helping out the anchor game. But we're not going to have to worry about that for the time being. There's still a whole 2 floors that have to be cleared out by Shift, and there is still that roam presence. What I would like more by Agony on this roam game is to maybe go for an earlier fallback, especially by, you know, the Oryx. He died in the first 30 seconds or so, and he had the best mobility out of any other of his teammates. Unfortunately, we don't have an Oryx on the board this round, but maybe having GP2 fall back to have some help by his teammates, maybe hold on to Blue for a little while longer in comparison to those top 2 floors, could be more problematic for the offense, and that could maybe guarantee they don't find a first pick, you know, in this first minute or so, and there we have it. They're actually not going to win that first engagement, Jazzman.
Spock is on for 1 there, and it's going to get pretty aggressive, and this is another aggressive setup here from Agony. They have 2 roamers upstairs. That's GP2 and Zvok, and Zvok has definitely been lighting it up here, but he's not able to take down Maple. A rare whiff from him, and unfortunately that is going to be the trade. Once again, Shift are just nailing down these trades whenever they need to, but they've still got GP2 to clear out, and they already got him isolated right now. All they have to do is collapse, and they don't need to, as Devil claims that kill once again. Do you have a stopwatch with you, fellow, at the moment? Because that is half of the round gone and 2 players already dead. All your own presence is gone, and the only stall that you have remaining is your C4s inside of sight and your smoke grenades.
And they didn't really waste a lot of time. Thankfully, Tree is on the smoke. That can be about half a minute burned, but we haven't seen a lot of moments where Shift are actively sluggish when they want to go for that execute. If they have something in mind, they're going to at the very least attempt it, and already we're seeing that transition from the middle floor, moving a floor lower, trying to get ready for this final execute. A Finka boost even popped, and they still have plenty of nades, plenty of heart destruction, so it's only a matter of time before they try to attempt this plant in the next 50 seconds, Adam.
All they have to do is bait out nades and smokes at this point. They might not even need to, as Show's going to go down. Your C4 is gone. All you have left is J-Tree, and I say all you have left, but J-Tree is very effective. But at the moment, Shift have been able to bypass this smoke almost all the time. And see, just a matter of waiting for J-Tree to pop his smoke. Maple's going to go in for the plant, and unfortunately the angle's lined up there for Taro. Smoke's not going to pop, though. Maple can stick this, and now it's just J-Tree in a 1 versus 2 as he takes down Senpai, but he is going to be locked out there. Shift going to attack from multiple different points, and once again, making the same mistake is Agony. They just let Shift walk inside of sight, no pressure whatsoever, and this time they even got attacked from the back.
And I really got to commend the team play by Shift as well, constantly forcing these, multi-attacks essentially against Agony. We saw a double grenade play from both hatches on that middle floor, which was honestly impressive to see work, and force back Agony to allow an ease of access to go for that plant besides the toxic canisters. And also, once again, just being able to heavily isolate the roam game to get a ton of map control in a fairly decent amount of time to, once again, get those hatches opened up and have a very breathable round. Funny enough, with the smoke canisters also not working to stop Maple from planting, the breathing inside of sight was just fine as well. Moving back in the top floor, though, we had a lot of issues, especially in the beginning of the round here for Agony. So if we don't see those issues remedied, and if we don't have Agony expect that early aggression by Shift near ATM, we could see a potential 5vx favoring the offense once again.
I'm praying to the Lord and anything else that is above that Devil doesn't just walk into ATM and get a double kill again. I swear to God, I'll literally get on my hands and knees and start crying. But yeah, what we've been seeing a lot of is Shift just kind of like, I hate to put it this way, but they're getting freebies. They're just walking in, they catch Agony, slipping up, and there it is. It's 2-1. That's what happens. That is what has happened for the past 3 rounds. A 2-1 trade where Shift kill 2, Agony can only get 1 refrag. And it just comes down to the fact that Agony just plays so loose. They've just been running around and kind of just dying out. You can see the drones here from Devil. He's already going to claim one. TK kills Svok. And what is Svok doing there? What pressure is he applying at that moment in time that he can't do somewhere else in a safe position? Agony just continue to put themselves in extremely unfavorable positions, and Shift have the proper intel for it.
Especially playing in the middle of lobby, that is one of the most dangerous places to be at when you're a defender inside of Bank. There's so many window angles you have to deal with. You can potentially get rushed in through ATM and also get crossfired in through the back of, I believe it's called Shark. So I really do not understand the decision there for Swak, one of your better gunners so far in this first half, to just waste their life like that. And like you and I both have now mentioned, force a 5vx favoring Shift so early. Now all they've got to really worry about is just the site presence, which they've already done a great job of establishing more of that map control. Taro does find a very important fight and win against Maple, so that's case down. It can most likely be recovered, though, with relative ease. But as we see the rest of this play unfold here by Shift, they still look like they're in a very dominating position, and they almost end up forcing a 4v3 as Tree almost gets his head ripped clean off.
I do like the angles that Agony are holding, though, but like you said, I mean, Shift are just going in with an iron fist right now, and unfortunately Agony are just playing too loose to expect this one. But Taro's on for 2, and Show claims one as well. I think GB2 nearly gets it down there. I think that was claimed by Show, actually. Now, 2 versus 3. Shift, however, will reclaim as TK's on for his 3rd. Show goes down, the Echo gone, and now it's just a game of gunfights here. You won't expect a plant anytime soon, as it is just going to be a head-hunting showdown as GP2 playing inside of vending. This could be a good position for him, but Senpai expects it, and Taro is left in a 1 versus 2. Shift. They're playing this one together. TK and Senpai. TK gonna start going for the plant now. Taro's on for the retake. Trying to look for Senpai right now is the best time to swing, but unfortunately he's not going to be able to claim it. Senpai's just playing so safe, and that's the right thing to do, but Taro's on to kill him as well. It's just TK in a 1 versus 1. Unfortunately, pistol's out, but the pistol's not working! Taro! Taro, no! Taro just cannot hit the final shot, and TK can.
Oh my goodness, Jasmine.
I would tack pause after that.
It has only been 4 rounds, and we have you screaming. This has been someone needs to check your blood pressure, man. This has gone out of control at this point. And
blood pressure? Check my cholesterol.
That's a good one to check as well. But I've got to commend both teams to a degree. Once again, we saw a great punishment by Shift. They capitalized on the fact that Swak was by himself and in a very vulnerable position to die. So that's exactly what happened. 5v4 instantly. But one thing to note that was actually really good by Agony that I enjoyed was the aggression we saw by GP2 and also Taro as well, but mostly the flanking Melusi, because at that point, I think they acknowledged that they haven't been running a gnome and it's more or less been the 0, which is a very active piece of flank watch for a person to be looking at. If you don't have anyone, checking through those Argus cameras, then you're bound to get caught and shot in the back. So that was a really good call by GP2, to be honest. But besides that, it was a lot of chaos once again. And also to note back on for Shift, they had really strong window presence, which is so important on a site like CEO. You can really make or break a round just by having someone hit their shots on those windows, and that is exactly what happened. So we saw the comeback by Shift, despite it being a 1 versus 1, and TK having a little bit of trouble inside a janitor, maybe getting caught in a couple broomsticks perhaps, and not knowing what was going on perhaps right outside the hallway.
Yeah, and also Shift's intel game has just been really optimal. I'm not even going to say it was like the greatest. They have cutoffs. That's it. They have cutoffs. They're doing the bare minimum, and unfortunately Agony are giving it to them. They're allowing Shift to have this intel advantage over them, because to be honest, I don't know if you've been keeping track, Phil. I don't know if you've been watching at all. I have not seen basically any drones destroyed by Agony. Those of importance. And like you mentioned, those Argus cameras. Shift play their cameras really well. Anytime someone dies, it's immediately to cams. So I really do think that intel is just going to be so massive against Agony. And it's the fact that not only are Agony just, like, obviously what are you going to do? Shoot the drones. Like, that's the most you can do. It's the fact that Agony are just giving them these kills. They think they're making an unexpected play, when in reality they're just making themselves open to a freebie. For example, sitting inside a main lobby.
Well, hopefully we don't have Spock potentially die early on, like we have seen a handful of moments, especially since he has been doing a relatively decent job of finding those picks necessary to start off in the right direction. We had him actually win an opening duel, but then get very aggressive inside of Electrical and then just get refragged, as if nothing had happened a moment prior near Square Stairwell. Even TK is just looking through the exact same angle he did a moment ago, expecting somebody peeking him through those little metal grates, but that's not going to be the case. Shift already inside the building, and once again just doing their due diligence on the drone game. I mean, nothing more you can really ask for. They have just been very methodical throughout this first half, and I don't expect that to change moving into round number 5 either.
And the one character that might have been good against drones is now gone, as Spock is cleared out of conference room in just seconds. That was a speed run right there. The minute mark hasn't even hit. We were still at the first minute. Spock is dead. And guess who's there to refrag? Absolutely nobody. That was a play to die position there for Spock, and well, he died, but he didn't play. And now Shift are just going to take full advantage of this. You saw their drone work and how effectively they were just able to get upstairs into the top floor. They did it in mere seconds, and now TK will claim yet another kill as Taro gets aggressive from main stairs. Why? I have no idea. Now it's a 5 versus 3 though, and Shift, well, Devil's now walking up garage. He does have diffuser here though. This could be the first power play that Agony can make if they're able to get this kill. Devil's not even looking the right way. They're just looking at each other. Devil's got one, and this one player still turned around. You have a gone 6, Devil. Don't you with that? Show's got to get this. Show doesn't get it. Devil gets it instead. It's just GP2 all by himself in a 1 versus 5 as Devil makes a mockery out of this Agony defense, and it's a trade there for Zers, and Shift are 5-0. Fellow, you just got into CL here, bud. I want to know your expert analysis on what just happened.
A lot of interesting decisions by Agony. I will just say that. Once again, Spock, I feel like he should be playing more for that like fallback position, just sitting in the middle of long desks, just asking to be crossfired and having someone watch your exit is not a good decision. Play near janitor or play out in the open of like the top hallway near the hatches. Play for that fallback, so then you can sit up in the middle of the actual first floor, waste even more time, and then see if you can find a pick or fall back to either blue or probably marble stairs would be the safer option. Yet we just see him die off the rip, and then we saw adaptation by Shift as well to not just do the exact same thing over and over again. They actually had Devil walk through garage, which could have been risky because he had case, but it didn't matter because there was nobody on cams, they didn't have any intel towards garage, and he didn't make a lot of noise. So he caught 2 people off guard completely and made it a very winnable position for Shift that we didn't see Agony come back from, obviously, as we see the scoreline 5-0 still favoring Shift, of course.
Yeah, and you mentioned Taro walking up marble stairs and how just ineffective that play was. It also just gave up a lot of control. You saw how Sho was in a position where he had to watch one or the other, and obviously you're not going to expect someone inside a garage, but you still have to make sure you're safe from it, especially whenever you have holes open into red hallway. You have to be pressuring garage constantly, and that should have been Taro's job. But Taro walked up marble and took an unfavorable fight, and he knew that it was going to be completely unfavorable. Shift have been doubling up almost every single round, so any aggressive peak that you're going to make is just simply not going to work. GP2 and Svok now are going to try and make one of those plays, but Svok is on drone, but GP2 is not, as he does claim double. Finally, a sign of hope here for the side of Agony as TK loses a lot of HP, and GP2, most importantly, most crucially, is safe. He can rotate out, he can go back to site, and he can play his pressure elsewhere, but Zers might have something to say about that.
Well, at least they played as a team while getting that first pick. I've got to be thankful for that at least. We had Spock and GP2 with the good old-fashioned buddy system of, hey, I'll bait for you, you bait for me, let's see what happens. They actually get a pick. Devil's gone. There's your main flank watch, and a lot of burn as well. There's only grenades and a couple of Gersmots on the board. I guess I should say lifelines. A good run-up by Taro as well. So TK now gone too. There's one of your main frag grenade players as well. And for once, Agony are in a very strong position to actually maybe even get their first round in the books. There isn't a lot left for Shift to come back from this position unless we see Agony just overextend in this huge man advantage favoring them.
Not only a man advantage as well, but also a time advantage. Agony have done the delay that they needed to do, even though it's just half of the round gone. Shift are going to have to completely re-drone and rework their entire attack now that they're 2 members down, but now Senpai's on for 1 as he nades out Sho. Echo gone. That's your plant denial as well. J-Tree's the only player remaining that has effective plant denial in him, but Shift have made their way upstairs. They have flushed out Agony and put them in a position where they're all locked upstairs. All that Agony have to do is trust their setup. Play to their strengths here. They have elevator control. They have players sitting inside of Banana. Just play to your crossfires, but Senpai is inside of sight. He doesn't have case, so a play could be made here as he's going to swing the desk. He can't find anything, but he does find J-Tree. That's Zers, in fact. And there's your C4 gone, but C4's not going to matter at this moment in time as Maple's going to line up one, and there's a player rotating a Banana that's been called, but GP2 claims it. 1 versus 2. Very winnable for GP2, but the swing from Senpai, and he does not miss. Shift 6-0. What else can you say? The Gunners from the north are making it happen.
I really don't know how they managed to have just a Finka walk in past their defender rank, and just do that. But all right. Yeah, that was weird. Senpai, I mean, good capitalization on finding a small opening to bring that back for your team, but I'm really shocked we just saw another round like that unfold for Shift. They are already 6-0, and we've been on air for I don't know how long, Adam, but not a very long time. And already we see some slight adaptation by them as well. We have Maple on the Thorn, a trap operator. I'm honestly very interested to see more Thorn in play. I think her gadgets are honestly not too shabby. Her gun's pretty solid too. So put in the right hands, you can maybe find a pick potentially if the offense isn't able to shoot it in time, or at least just gathering intel. As long as you can keep a good track record of those 3 explosive gadgets you have, and know where they are placed, you hear one go off, that is vital intel you could use to reposition yourself to be in a more advantageous place to win a gunfight.
Yeah, and obviously Thorn as well just thrives in chaos, and considering how chaotic Bank executes typically can be, just having that time to just delay a little bit. It's only 5 seconds, but it just throws everything out of order. Whenever you hear that little razor bloom going off, you have to wonder what's going on around you, and it could be pretty cool. I don't think I've seen a competitive Thorn kill just yet, but I'm excited to see, and maybe that's the debut of this today, as Agony will start out on their attack. Now, fellow, the scoreline says lots. It tells a lot of stories, and the one thing that it's telling me, you don't have to know how to read to understand this book. Agony have got a long way to crawl if they want to try and take this. Shift, they're going to play this effectively. They're just going to play this as standard as possible. They have C4s, they have smokes. Amira, who has been left unbanned, but hasn't come into effect, at least on the Agony defense. We'll have to see if that comes into effect at all. Senpai! Oh, baby, he takes down Svak, who has been an effective fragger here on the side of Agony. And he's not stopping there, as he's going to swing wide here all the way over into stock, but he's not going to be able to get anything. But, key thing, he has the rotate out if he wants it. And unfortunately, GP2, ahead of 0 drones, is going to walk right into Senpai's crosshair. They finally get the trade, but the damage has been dealt. A set of nades, actually your only set of nades, are gone.
Maybe Senpai got a little too greedy up on the top floor. I think he could have probably fallen back and did even more damage, but still, 2 picks, like you had mentioned, is plentiful enough. A lot of your information game already down the drain. You have a handful of drones, which isn't horrible, but besides that, there is not much left for you. You're not going to really need that flank watch because most of the defense is allocated to the bottom floor, where the site currently is. Funny enough, the hatches actually are not reinforced, so I guess that makes the Habana's job even easier, perhaps, but it's going to take a lot more than just this hatch pressure to make sure Agony can get their first round in the books, because besides this, they really do not have anything to their name as of now. They still need to deal with the mirror windows, still need to deal with the razor blooms, and of course, still need to deal with those toxic canisters as well.
Yeah, if Shift are going to play anything like they did on their attack, they're going to play coordinated, and they're going to play safe. But speaking of, against my words, Zer's smoke will just swing, and he won't miss. He will not miss. Show will get taken down. And now it's a 4 versus 2. Now Shift literally have the round in their hands. It'll take a big blunder for them to mess this one up. But J-Tree and Taro, they're no strangers to kills at the moment here. Taro's on for 7. They've got to make a play. 35 seconds left. They're just going to have to work against this mirror window. They're just not going to take that fight at all inside of red. Taro's got case, and he's going to make his way down main. But options are really starting to go away right now. Razor Bloom plopped over by Marble Stairs means that they'll know. They'll know that this push is coming. Flashbangs as well will be a big indicator. None of them going off except for one. The drops in for J-Tree, and he does claim one, but it's traded immediately, and you can see, even off the bullet trails coming out of the guns of Shift, it's a full-on crossfire. They made a 90-degree angle. They had that on lock. Shift, what else is there to say? A stellar debut for the organization here as they take a 7-0 lead on Bank. And the map 1 lead as well.
And I gotta admit, it just came down to basics. We saw better team play by Shift. We saw better regression. They won a majority of those opening duels, and they still weren't afraid to fall back on other things than just winning their gunfights, of course, where I feel like if Agony weren't just coming out of the gate swinging and they didn't land on anything, they didn't look in that hopeful of a position. I'm really hoping that changes on map number 2, but that was just such a brutal way to start out this Friday evening between both Shift and Agony, in all honesty. That was agonizing for Agony, funny enough, Adam.
You did talk about the fundamentals, and I think that's the last thing we can mention is they were just... I mean, I saw J-Tree. I didn't want to mention this, but I saw it. I think you saw it as well. J-Tree walks into Cafe, and Herder got his ARX. He swings to his left corner. He's like, there's no one here. Why'd you drone that? You haven't drone it. He throws the drone. It was just... It's not much, okay? I'll admit. I'm overreacting a little bit. But it just... It kind of exemplifies the playstyle that was going on with Agony. Not a lot of drone work, not a lot of intel, not a lot of team play. Kind of just went in and made things happen. They lost nades. I mean, you saw GP2 swing over by vending with nades in his back pocket, and he had no intel. So it was a little bit rough there, but unfortunately, that's our first map, and Bank will go in the way of Shift in dominating fashion. We'll be back with Villa coming up next. Maybe it'll be a little bit more hopeful here for Agony. We'll just have to wait and see.
I've seen things that you wouldn't believe. I was lost until I found that I'm invincible. Nobody gon' bring me down. Here we go. I'm invincible. Nobody gon'
Ladies and gentlemen, after a stellar 7-0 there from Shift GG on Bank, we are back for map number 2. We're going over to Villa. Now, obviously, Villa and Bank, two completely different playstyles, so maybe we won't see a 7-0. Who knows? I'm Jasmine, this is Fellow, and I'm just praying to God that we get a series.
Praying to whoever's willing to listen at this point, because there were a couple of good moments there by Agony, but a lot of it just came down to the same problems over and over again. I mentioned this briefly of what shifted right. What we had Agony do wrong was a lot of self-isolation, over-aggression, and just not being in the right positions to do their job at all. Like, the roam game fell very early, especially on a time stall map such as Bank. That was a very big red flag. And then the anchor presence, just overall, their morale just looked weaker because they were like, we know we already have to deal with this problem so early. We're not even too sure if we're going to be able to stall long enough to force a really horrible post-plant position, which they weren't able to do, of course. Moving into Villa as well, those same problems could kind of resonate, but I feel like you can rely on that anchor presence much more in comparison to the roam. Despite this being a very roam-dominant map, funny enough, you can, especially on a site like Aviator, you can bring a lot of utility and just waste probably a good minute if you have both the Chonka and Smoke. And don't even get me started on Goya, because despite the fact he has no shields, he's still very good in Aviator put in the right hands.
Yeah, and you kind of talked about that stall. Goyo is great, and I think that Shift, kind of being a coordinated team, they'll have that stall on lock. They understand the positions that they need to play, and I think that Devil is drilling a system into the heads of these 4 players where they just listen to him, and assuming that Devil is doing that, Devil's a pretty well structured IGL. He just likes to lock things down and just play fundamentals, and I think that that's all that Shift really needs to do at the moment. Agony have just looked very separated as of recent. They haven't really played for refrags. They haven't pushed together. And don't get me started on map control, because they have been it's been very difficult for them to claim even a piece of map control, and especially on a map like Villa where one overextend can throw your entire attack into a loop. Got to be very careful.
Especially with how easy it is to rotate on Villa, you have that whole basement floor as a roamer highway. So having something like the Lion, an Iana, or a Jackal, anything to ensure you can clear out that roam game in a much faster way, is not a bad idea for any team. So I like that pick by Agony to have at least the Jackal as some sort of insurance policy, and the Nomad as well. Both really solid picks, and they still have plenty of util to deal with the site presence. They've got the Twitch in case there's something like a Mute Jam or a Kite Claw, which there isn't by Shift, but it's still nice to have. Maybe you can break a couple ADSs or disable a Banshee device, for example. And they've got nades and also flashes. So their lineup not looking too shabby at all. Maybe get rid of the Twitch and pick an Iana perhaps, or maybe some sort of other grenade player, since there is not a lot of general util on the board here for Shift, but it's not a bad pick at all. Still a good gun and still a good gadget to at least maybe find something later in the round.
10 seconds left before
Just having a castle being brought out by Devil, and well, Castle's got 4 barricades now, so Devil can get as creative as he wants, and it seems like he's just going to lock out the entire backside. So, whenever you go for a master take, you obviously, or whenever you go from like a north side take, you move into master, then you cut off Astro and then push from there. So maybe this Castle Barricade is going to stall out a little bit of time, force Agony into droning, which is something that they have not been doing as of recent. You've got Senpai and TK on that side of the map as well, one of them being on Mazu. So kind of reinforcing that fact is that, Agony, they've just had so much trouble with gathering intel, and I think that if you're able to kind of force them to do it, it can be really difficult there. But Senpai, not expecting a flurry of bullets to come through the wall, will be the first to be knocked down, but he is traded as Vok gets killed as well, and TK is out of there. And you talked about how easy it is to rotate. TK is going to take full advantage.
At least there is some sort of great equalizer there for Shift. Not the end of the world. We could maybe have the track spotted out here by Show. He does have the Inox at the ready. An air jab is almost deployed here by Trees. Could maybe give a small moment for TK to find something. Yeah. Why was the air jab never placed? Were they trying to... Oh, I think I know. They were trying to shoot into the floor to put the air jab in there, perhaps. That way it could not get shot. Although it's probably like the easiest place to put an air jab and have it not get shot. So very questionable there by Tree. But all right, trying something new. Can't complain that much. But now Agony have lost that equalized position. The roam is still a problem because they never fully dealt with it. TK is still alive. And now they need to worry about the 90 presence, which they could clear out in a matter of moments with a well-tossed grenade, which I think finally happens. But still, a lot on the plate here for Shift. And if they forget about one minute thing during this round, they could get either flanked or just completely forget about the crossfires established for this execute.
You can see it, Agony have kind of moved their way down, so they are going to get speedy with this one, but not a lot of utility go around here. GP2 only has one nade left. That's the only thing left to destroy your shields unless you want to use your X-Kairos, which you really don't. GP2, show has been drone hold, unfortunately, and TK, with the ratty plays, will be able to claim his third kill, and the impact trick will go through his, or I don't think it has, but it's not going to matter. TK's on for his fourth there, and it is just up to GP2, but there's nothing that GP2 can do against Zers. Shift on for round number 1. Sloppiness on the side of Agony once again, looking super separated, and Shift will take full advantage.
Interesting thing that we didn't see attempted at all really by Agony there was any sort of cutoff angle, especially when still dealing with that roam game. Some people like to opt to have somebody kind of prowl about near that middle floor, maybe rotate in a mud room, go watch Astro's Stairs, or just sit in that general area in case somebody falls back in through the jungle drop. Then that could be some sort of pick given for Agony that isn't just equalized because there's 2 roamers on the board. I talked about that team play. You have as well, already demonstrated on the first round of Villa, which is something we did not see a lot of by Agony. They went for a lot of solo and hero plays, which never really met up to the standard that they were probably expecting, to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely not, and it's just been their downfall pretty much for the past 7 rounds that we saw in Bank, and now this round on Villa. Solo plays, I get that they can work, but in the fact that Agony haven't just been playing so loose, it's really not going to benefit you much if you get 1 kill or 2, because there's either a refrag waiting for you, just handed to you on a silver platter, or you just give a map control. That time around, we saw TK was able to run around and just pinch Agony in the back every so often, and he lived through the entire round. No consequences for him there, and Shift have just been otherwise locking down the site. TK is free to make whatever plays he wants to, and Agony can do absolutely nothing to stop him.
Well, for Agony, you hate to see it. That's probably why they were asking for a pause for next round, is because they had some small technical issues, which, understandable. Unfortunately, though, they are already at a deficit because of that, with Shift not having to break a single sweat. They're still holding this roam game in a very dominating presence. There is a smoke grenade, but there is a crossfire as well, with TK holding in the middle of bookshelves, so not a lot of map pressure really established by Agony whatsoever. And the fact that this is the only thing that's trying to stop Shift from doing this roam game is just a smoke grenade, that really is not going to be enough. I don't think we noticed the Iana, though, that at least nets Tree something, but besides that, it is still a very strong presence by Shift, and now that Zers gets aggressive with no one there to refrag up until now, it's still, like you have said countless times, Jazzman, it's just been too much damage already done this early in the round.
And obviously, you can kind of point out the mistake pretty easily here, I think, fellow. We saw a lot of face checking there. Show walks into wow, why am I blanking? Study. For what reason? And like you said, the only thing that they had was a little Mickey smoke grenade to hold off from defenders. That's not going to do anything. And unfortunately, with a player sitting top main, Show basically walked into his own demise, and Agony will just continue to make the same mistake over and over and over again. Not only do they not have intel, but they're acting on the fact that they have no intel quite poorly. They're not able to adapt to this, and Taro's going to swing in. That nets him a kill. This could be a really good position here for Agony if Taro's able to get aggressive and get some damage in. But he's going to stall out a little bit. He's got 2 crossfires working against him. He's not able to get Maple down. It's just J-Tree in a 1 versus 2. And with the low HP here, always going to favor your 2v1. Maple and Devil just waiting. A beautiful shot, though, by J-Tree. Could be the first round here for Agony in the entire series. But unfortunately, it is shut down there. Shift managed to claim yet another 9 rounds in a row for Shift. And it's rough to see.
And I gotta agree. So far, not much change being done. We could maybe cough up that round to already losing a player, but I'd like to think not. You shouldn't try to think of it like that. There were still a lot of issues there in the round for Agony, even though they were already at a 5 versus 4, not favoring them. Only having a smoke, nobody going main to help deal with the player bookshelves, nobody on 90 repel. It was everybody just bot walk through study doorway and hope they don't shoot through the smoke. Pretend like it's a brick wall and it's invincible. It unfortunately is not, and you still need to deal with study doorway and bookshelves like I mentioned earlier. So the potential for crossfire, and again, the word of the day, team play. That's something that Shift has really thrived upon countless times, and it only makes sense why they're now 9 rounds in a row technically up against Agony. They're playing good Siege.
And you mentioned it. No one punished the guy Books because he didn't know he was there.
Can you throw a grenade there too underneath? Could have did that too. Nothing.
There's so many options you could have taken. Yeah, exactly. Just instead of throwing 2 attackers into the gauntlet and just going one by one into study for what? The trade was always set up there for Shift, and it was just a disaster. There's so many different avenues that Agony could have taken, and that's why Villa is such a popular map nowadays, is that it's diverse. There's a lot you can do with it. But unfortunately, we saw none of that come out from Agony. Not even a drone to spot the guy Books. Definitely not going to help you there. And you talked about it, team play definitely going to be beneficial here for Agony. If you can't even get your intel in, what is team play going to do you?
Not a whole lot, to be honest, at least for Agony so far. Hopefully that this will be a moment where they can kind of collect themselves and be like, all right, we still have a chance to beat Shift, especially on this map, and maybe force a third one. So let's just try to keep our mental fortitude up as if it were Fort Knox, essentially. One thing to note here, the volatile state of Shift in terms of their lineup, they've got a lot of very versatile operators. Once again, they've got the Vigil, Mozzie, Pulse as well. Good potential for both the roam game and also intel gathering via that cardiac sensor, and also maybe the cap cans if TK is able to keep a mental note of where he's placed all of his EDDs. And then having that nitro cell potential to deny vertical play if it happens, that's also something nice to note as well. With the lineup of Agony though, I think they're opting more or less for a linear take instead. That does net them at least one opening pick, but it's quickly refragged by Senfi, so nothing to really note about as of yet. And I think Shift has gotten the idea that maybe they'll see more of a presence leading into Memo through Library and Living Room rather than the top floor where that vertical play would normally occur.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier on in your analysis a while ago that, you know, Villa's super easy to rotate on. Shift are going to take perfect advantage of that as Devil. Oh my gosh! With the help of Maple, will keep his life. And you can see Senpai in the background as well, gonna rotate down, and Agony just get cut apart. There's no team play coming into this, but J-Tree has been quite the effective attacker here. He's been quite the effective player as a whole. He claims a kill, but the damage has already been done. Shift are on for a 3 versus 2, and while they don't have a lot of utility remaining, that man advantage is certainly gonna hurt moving into the dying seconds of this round. Senpai still over by the piano as well, so there is a presence that Agony are going to have to deal with. A beautiful shot there by J-Tree. We'll just read into Devil's play here, but Maple, he's got a Mossberg in his hand, but J-Tree on for a triple and on for a quad as well. Finally, Agony get their round off the back of J-Tree, but still a lot of mistakes to be corrected, but it's a step in the right direction.
Hey, they got one in the books, man. No 10-0 in sight. That's a big sigh of relief. I don't want to be too critical because this is finally like the gloating promotion here for Agony, but in my mind, it didn't feel like they won that round. It felt like Shift lost that round. It sounds very harsh to say that, but we had somebody just running out in the middle of Red Hallway in a 3v2. I don't think that's really necessary. You know where the Ace and Nomad are pushing from. You know they're going to have to most likely go for maybe a 1-to-1 through Memo and China Door. Maybe they're going to want to have somebody late rotate in a Laundry, get that wall open up, and go for more of a default plant with one guy in Laundry being that Ace and the Nomad and Memo, but that's really it. And you've got Nitro Cells to counteract that to stop a plant from happening, and maybe you could have somebody late rotate once that's confirmed, and they could try to deny the plant via vertical perhaps, if that's a fact you want to opt to go for. But no, we just saw 2 people get hyper aggressive. That costed the man advantage for Shift, and that allowed Agony to, for once, capitalize on the mistakes made by Shift. So I gotta give Agony credit for that. But if we see Shift just laugh off that round and just play like they did the past 9 rounds, then this is probably one of the only few rounds we're going to see as a success for Agony.
Yeah, that was kind of a gimmicky round as well for Shift. They had 4 C4s lined up for Kitchen. I see it work, but not a lot, especially not in competitive. It just feels kind of redundant because there's not a lot of positions that you can really effectively hold with that C4. In most cases, your map control is going to be first on the side of the defenders, and Shift have been very good at that. So kind of, relinquishing that from their defense definitely hurt a little bit here, as Devil is also upstairs. He's got map control here to hold over from Statuary. I think he's got a teammate playing with him as well. I'm not sure who, though. But Devil's going to be able to delay so much here. Even if he dies, Agony have not been too prone, have not been too keen whenever it comes to losing time. They will lose a lot of time and kind of just crumble at that moment. Senpai is the player that I was mentioning, by the way. We'll get naded here, but it's not cooked. That could have been a kill, but regardless, it's not. And Senpai will take full advantage to get the opening kill of this round as Shift. You can see it, fellow. We talked about it. They're going to rotate down.
And thinking that that grenade would fully clear out the Mozzie, not a bad concept, but the fact that there was no comms given there and the information was just dried up after a late drone did allow Show to die and kind of fall in a very vulnerable position. Once again, Agony now at the deficit for another round here in the first half, and we've got Shift still in a very powerful position. You again have to potentially worry about that flank presence. I believe J-Tree has at least posted up the one default air jab leading into Astro Stairs, and Svok is able to refrag onto Maple, but it's not an equalized position long-lived, as Senpai with a very brutal angle all the way down to Study will get rid of Taro, and that's your only hard breach. Now you have to funnel most likely leading into Stole Doorway unless Svok can keep doing God's work, in the middle of 90.
Yeah, and Agony have been winning their gunfights as of recent, but can't bet on that entirely. A Shift still have a lot of utility to work with here. Got gas grenades. No more C4s, though, but Zers, well, he'll make J-Tree an example as he takes him down, and now it's a 3 versus 2. Zvok is now going to have to rotate. All of his plans have been foiled because he needs to recover the diffuser over by Skull. Now GP2 and Zvok, they're split up, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but GP2 is completely forced out of Study right now. He is having zero effect on this round because he can't get himself inside. But it is going to be a swing here from GP2. He gets himself on the Study balcony at least, but he's now known that Senpai has that presence. And unfortunately, you don't win against a shotgun in that position. Zvok is down and left to dry, and it's just down to GP2, and he cannot win that round. Shift. As quickly as Agony were able to claim one, they'll claim it back.
I liked the rotation there by GP2. What I didn't like, though, was something that we've talked about a lot by Agony, their lack of general information and knowledge as to what they're about to get themselves into. We had no clue where the Mozzie was there for GP2, and he just died in a crossfire once again. And not having any pressure established by throwing out a grenade, perhaps, popping a Finka boost, or like I mentioned at the very beginning, go for that drone game, it did allow him to be easy pickings. And similar to his teammate, who was across the ways near Skull Doorway, I bet wasn't fully confirmed that somebody was that close near Skull Door with a shotgun to just one pump him and throw him to the floor. So, yeah, my fears have turned into reality. Agony have so far only gotten that one round, and Shift, like you had mentioned, quickly clapped back.
Yeah, I want to talk about another point that you also mentioned, kind of going back to the nades that you're mentioning. Whenever the nade was thrown down Astro Stairs, no communication. 10 seconds remaining. I think we're starting to see a little bit less communication. I think we're starting to see that also rear its ugly head because Agony have been making so many solo plays where as soon as somebody dies, nobody's there to call it out. That player on Shift who makes a play like that is able to punch themselves deeper into the Agony attack and claim another life. It's happened way too many times. TK is a great example. Senpai has been recently as well, where he just claims a freebie and maybe even claims a second. Whenever it comes to Agony's attacks as well, they've just looked so discombobulated. A lot of the times, their attacks have not come with a buddy system. They've not come with a pairing. They've not come with a team effort. It's just been one player introducing themselves into a room, and they win the gunfight, or they don't. And that determines how the round goes. Devil is inside of Study now. Drone's going to fly past him, and GB2's completely spotted Devil. Devil has no idea of that, though. And J-Tree. Well, he's been on top of things here. He does claim a kill, but Senpai is on for a refrag immediately. So it's a 4 versus 4. GP2 does get inside a Study here. He has a back turn, but he's not able to get it. He downs him instead, but Zerge is safe to res here. So now, minute down, Agony have made themselves a presence, but Senpai will make himself an even bigger one.
Thankfully, having the good coordination there and not having a fast enough reaction time by Agony, they wanted to confirm that pick, having someone hop into 90. It's just such a loud audio call, and there was already a C4 placed there prematurely by Senpai. Not able to detonate. Find a second for him here in this round. Tries to get aggressive, but thankfully gets taken care of by J-Tree. Once again, we're at an equalized setup here. Agony potentially having a chance to bring this one back. Zers and J-Tree are rather low in HP, so we could see things quickly turn down into that 3 versus 2 and maybe even a 2-on-2 soon after, as we've got GP2 trying to get aggressive in the middle of Statuary, almost spots one, but has to deal with this crossfire. Thankfully, Zers is the first one to peek. There's a great trade, though, but it's only TK, as Maple's been downed.
TK has been a star player for this team, though, but Not much one man can do. He's got them lined up, though. TK's on for one. He knows the last player's inside a statue. Or sorry, inside a trophy, rather, but he's not able to get it. Again, off of the back of J-Tree, Agony will claim another round here, 3-2. It's looking a bit closer, but again, Agony, they've been winning rounds solely off of individual plays. They work on Villa, I guess, but it's not I don't want to, I know you did this as well, I don't want to downplay their victory, but really, Agony, I mean, they got that off of individual play. Thankfully, though, it is a round. This is good momentum for them, and they're going on to a slate that they've won last time before. We could be seeing a 3-3 half if they play their control correctly, and if they just get their communication up to standards.
So Devil was just taking a nap on the couch, so he died very early. but besides that, there was a pretty solid chance for Shift to bring that one back. I really don't think that we had TK know that the Nomad was just proning right next to the other attacker inside a trophy room, which probably threw him off guard. But hey, yeah, especially by J-Tree, that was a very redeeming round. He's been doing a lot of work overall. The only person with double digits in the entire lobby so far. A lot of players on Agony not looking too hot in terms of frag potential, and maybe that could change. And now having Show on the Finka, he hasn't really been on this role too predominantly so far, been on like the Twitch, for example, in the past. So maybe having an LMG where they can just hold down M1 no matter what corner they check could help them out. We are technically in the LMG meta right now, so that could be something to note later on in the round if it is successful. But besides that, I would really be hopeful that Agony can maybe have just a solid, and I mean solid, round on their offense without having some sort of X factor be the reason why they end up winning a round against Shift.
Yeah, that X factor has been J-Tree a lot of the times, like you mentioned, and Svaka will go down as well. And that's just an unlucky spawn peak. I won't chalk that up to anything too horrible. TK just timed that properly, and Svaka will go down. But now Agony, what is this push that they're making? They're going to be doing yet another linear push. Last time, this really didn't work because Shift were just kind of able to just get on top of them and wrap back around and attack them from two angles. But Taro lost a lot of HP there, a lot of blood going down. And Senpai, well, he's been making his presence known, and that's about as much as he needs to do because he's going to waste a lot of time on this position here. Gets GP2 to very low HP, but J-Tree will claim the refrag off of the spawn peak, but TK will get his own refrag here, and Devil's on for one as well. 3 versus 2, and Taro has made himself a presence inside of a meeting, but it's not going to matter. TK's on for his 3rd kill, and it's just Maple to claim the final one. It is another attack that crumbles at the hands of Agony.
Well, the roam game's still doing quite well for him, and not having anything to stop TK, that is the one problem with going for more of like that linear take, especially if you don't want to clear out the top floor, is you can just have the roam game still sit up there, and then they can shoot at you from above and also have somebody get aggressive like near Memo to watch through red hallway. That red stairs presence was a pain for Agony. It's a very taxing position to put yourself in, and what benefit do you really gain? Not much. So that's why the linear take in my mind can be a bit weak unless you are a very gun orientated team and you want to just try to hit the site as quickly as possible. But even then, there's still a lot of problems in that kind of play style in of itself, especially if you're a team that isn't very good on your rotations, which has kind of been the case for Agony. We've only seen them gone for those proper last round rotations a handful of times. One of those reasons being they normally don't get to that position in the first place, but other moments is when they're just at a low man count and they don't really have enough resources to do the proper setup in order to have a site execute be that successful for them on their offense.
Yeah, they've just kind of been forced into one position most of the time and just funneling in from one area. And like you mentioned, by the time they get into that one area, they don't have enough resources to allocate, and then they continue to lose more and more bodies because they're funneling into one position. It's just a lose-lose every single time, and you can see just how effective these little roam games from Shift have been working, because you just get an opening frag or two, and all of a sudden Agony are thrown into a panic where they just can't make the push that they want to, and their adaptations are limited. Now, on the side of Shift, however, they're going to be going on the attack. You can see Devil droned in immediately here, and will find a down already, but he is traded out a little bit overzealous there from Devil, but still early pressure. C4 dead, but GP2 will refrag as well. Once again, Agony finally having a round that is starting to look good for them here, but J-Tree is going to lose a lot of HP. He is stuck between a rock and a hard place, but J-Tree will be able to rotate out there. We mentioned the rotates here on Villa, super effective, and now Shift. Not the attack start that they wanted, but they will get the refrag immediately afterwards as Maple takes down Zvok. And if they just drone this a little bit here, Shift will realize soft floor control is basically all theirs.
They really did such a good job at the beginning, Agony, for punishing Shift's over-aggression. They could have just fell back into Boar, for example, maybe gone all the way to 90 after that 4v3, but they overstayed their welcome. And now that's going to cost Fox life, and that is now going to also lose them their advantage they had. They are technically still on even footing, literally and figuratively. The HP standing is about the same between Agony and Shift, and the man presence is about equal as well. And they still have red and 90 pressure, so that's nice. But if the isolation is strong and we have somebody go up through red, this could be a very damaging position. Zers flashes himself, but still wins the fight against GP2s. It goes both ways. 90 control now in the favor of the offense, and they just need to deal with Taro essentially, as now J-Tree is gone. It's only the smoke with a lot of its utility already gone.
Beautiful shot there though by Taro, and it's just a 2 versus 1 now, but he has got his cross working against him there, and Senpai will claim yet another round here from Shift. 5-2, and Shift are looking to just run right through Agony, and once again, it even transfers over to the defense. Agony, miscommunication on a lot of parts. No crossfires established on the side of Agony, but solo plays. Whenever 90 control was given to Agony, I would say I had a little bit of hope there for their defensive round. They had a lot of retake potential coming from that position. They could kind of push into short and just make their presence known. But then I remembered the way that Agony have so far been playing. They don't like to retake control. They don't like to fill positions that they have control of, and they don't like to play together. It's a recipe for disaster, fellow. I mean, we've just been seeing it over and over again. Agony have just not been able to play with each other and force Shift out. Shift has just been like, all right, I want control of this. And they get it. Senpai was able to walk into sight. Senpai was able to walk in through Skull. He was able to walk in without any 90 presence. I mean, this has just been happening over and over and over again. Crossfires need to be given here, or need to be taken here from Agony if they want to have any effect on this attack from Shift.
Oh man, gotta love the all chat banter.
Oh,
of
the
007 show. So tragic. You hate to see
Oh.
it. But I will admit, Agony, especially at the beginning of the round, they had really good team play. They had the trade potential there. It was solid. But then they never fell back. And what happened was they had no sight presence because Smoke had to hold bookshelves with a shield, and then they had somebody hold red and 90, which shouldn't have been the case. They should have had the Smoke fall back into sight and maybe have somebody else hold shelves while we had the player of Svok actually holding 90 as he was falling back from Boar/Trophy. But because that never happened, because he died, that was something that just was out of the option pool for Agony. And that's, again, been a really main reason why they haven't won a lot of rounds. They just cannot swallow their pride, and they want to keep as much map control as humanly possible. I talked about the give and take potential on Bank, and that can also be said, RIP TK. That's something that can also relate on Villa as well, especially since that roam game is very potent. You know what's potent? Frag grenades, and TK is going to learn that the hard way.
And well, Show is going to take full advantage of that as he claims 2 kills here, 2 versus 5, and well, Shift on the back foot pretty hard. This is rough. And Show, he's going to make it a third, maybe. Cannot line up the head here. Maple, however, will get traded. Team play. We're seeing it, fellow. It's happening. A trade from the side of Agony. And now it's a 1 versus 4. Shift. I mean, it was just rough from the start there. TK naded himself and the entire attack fell apart. A rare misplay, I think, from Shift is not a lot of intel coming into this round. They kind of walked into the underneath main expecting it to be clear, and they were very surprised and very shocked whenever they got peeked from every which way. You don't see that a lot from Shift, but unfortunately it will lose them around now as Agony will claim their third. 5-3. It's doable. Villa defense can be really potent in the right hands. Maybe this is the time for Agony to mount their comeback.
You know, I think it's a little bit of poetic justice that out of all the people that killed Devil, it had to be Show, who just got kind of tagged on for going 007, and then he immediately smokes Devil with the SMG-11. I mean, that's somewhat comedic depending on how you look at it. I gotta admit. And that was a very good round by Agony. Once again, I think they're finally getting the hang of playing together as a team. Maybe they haven't scrimmed a lot. Maybe some of their players are a bit rusty. You know what? It happens. Sometimes the game isn't fun to play, and you want to avoid it like the plague. I get that. There's a reason why I commentate and I don't do comp anymore because of that reason. So I feel that. But now I think they're getting in kind of a groove. They're getting a feel for how Shift likes to play, and they are doing a good job at moments to actually kind of outmaneuver their opponents and get some good round wins. So having the scoreline be a bit closer from 5-3 in comparison to 6-0 than 7-0, that's something I gotta admit I am a big fan of, and I'm hoping Agony can keep that ball rolling for a little while longer.
Yeah, especially because
and then I jinxed it. Oh well.
That's gonna hurt. That's gonna hurt a lot. And also another thing is tertiary bomb site as well. Shift might not expect this. Agony, they know how to do this. If they just play with proper form, I think that Agony can do a lot if they just play with proper form, because they definitely have the fragging capability. J-Tree has 14 kills, may I remind you. And Agony have only won 3 rounds off that. If Agony can just play to their strengths here, just play to the fact that they have good fraggers, and just play fundamentally correct, not even super duper overextend, massive mastermind strategy. Just play standard. Play defaults. That should be enough there. Now, the issue here is Svok is playing on a position to die, and Agony will be able to claim 1, and Svok as well. So it is 2 kills going in the way of Agony. They've got their second as well as Taro takes down TK. 4 versus 2 now, and Shift, they've been shut down upstairs. Agony, we talked about their fragging potential, really exploded there, and now Agony looking to possibly narrow this gap.
Shift definitely getting a bit overconfident there, not having their util prop. They were just ready to run an Aviator and go for a gunfight there, but it was not favoring Shift in the slightest. Agony doing a much better job of remaining reserved and only attacking when absolutely needed to. We have J-Tree getting a bit active as well on the first floor, leaving just Zers once again outside of the building, now having to win, funny enough, in another 1 versus 4 predicament with about half of the action phase still left on the round. He has a grenade, which is fantastic. No intel to work off of though, no drones, so he'll just have to silent step around the entire map, maybe go for a bit of a tack timeout to talk with their team to make sure they can get match point pretty soon in series point, or else we will just continue to see Agony on that potential come up, because they have been doing drastically better in comparison to map 1. I feel like that's a given at this point, Adam.
Absolutely. And Agony, I mean, especially on Villa where it's just super easy to rotate, I think that Agony did kind of they had the right idea on Bank. I don't think that they executed it a lot, but we didn't see Agony just like get super complacent. Whenever they had an option to rotate, they took it. Svok will not claim that kill though, as Zer's looking to do something here, but his position is known thanks to the prox alarm. He's only got 1 player to deal with inside of vault, and he gets it. 1 versus 2 now. Case, absolutely not in the hands here of Zers, though. He's going to have to find frags, and with the time at the moment, there's no way that Agony can possibly lose this. And as I say that, we'll see what happens. But with 19 seconds left, Zers is simply just waning down the clock, and Agony, they're playing the case pretty effectively now. Zers will recover it at the most, but he's looking the wrong way. J-Tree misses his shots, though. Very rare miss here from J-Tree, but he's playing this so well as he rotates out and baits it right into the hands of GP2. And Agony, they get their round 5-4. Momentum starting to swing in their favor, especially after the fact that they just won off of a disconnect. They've got to be feeling elated right now.
Absolutely. From the beginning, Shift had the advantage, yet they still did such a fantastic job on the top floor. They completely shut out Shift, and then they had nothing left in the gas, basically, in the tank left, really, for Shift. They have a bunch of rounds to bleed, of course. They had a 5-2 at some point, but how long is that going to remain true? Not very long. There's only a 1-round advantage here for Shift, so we could see a 5-5 position if we just keep having Agony put the hurt on against Shift, and if they just keep remaining too overconfident now that Agony's got a good read on their playstyle.
Yeah, and I mean, Shift, they've just kind of been broken down at the seams. I know that, they're a very well-coordinated team, but whenever you just kind of throw in a little bit of monkey playstyle here and there, it works. I kind of mentioned, I'm kind of contradicting myself a little bit. I know that I said that, peeking over aggressively doesn't work, but that's not what we're seeing anymore. We're finally seeing trades being played here by Agony. They're playing with each other. They're buddying up. You called it the buddy system. They're finally making that work. They're using it to its great effect, and they're not overextending that much. They're using their map control that they have, and if they need to, they rotate off. It's happened twice now. In Shift, they haven't been able to capitalize because they're so used to positions where they get a kill and that's it. Doesn't work like that on Villa. Bank, you can maybe get it because it's just such a large map. I mean, everyone's going to be spread thin. But on Villa, everyone's really compact and tight together. And considering that Agony kind of changed their playstyle a little bit, it's not the playstyle that's going to work here for Shift.
It's not what they're doing, it's how they're doing it. That's the big difference right now from map number 1 and map number 2. But what Shift is doing as well, definitely getting a little too much in their head, like I've mentioned a couple of times. They are not using utility. They don't want to take an extra few seconds to just wait to swing. They want to get in the action as quickly as possible. I don't blame them. It's still been a very fast series, despite the fact it has already been 9 rounds and nobody's won map number 2 yet in comparison to map 1. So, I don't blame them. It's getting kind of late. They want to wrap up the show. I feel that. But, that they still have to play some good Siege. They did such a good job on Bank, they cannot just leave all that good play style out in the middle of Bank in LA. They have to bring that over into Italy right now, or else Agony is going to keep punishing them and just bring things back completely on the defense, because it is still a good map to roam, a good map to extend on, and a good map just to shoot people until they stop moving, which has been a pretty good reason for Agony winning out a majority of these rounds. We haven't seen a lot of post-plant positions at all, I think. Yeah, no, we have seen no post-plant positions. Every round has been won via just getting kills so far in the second map.
Yeah, it has been the extensions that have basically decided rounds at this point. And so far, Agony have been making really good play of that. And you mentioned the rotates. That's what it is. The rotates are super easy on Villa. You can either back out a door, drop down a hatch, fall down this hallway, this, that, and the other. And Agony haven't gotten complacent. They understand that they can give up map control now. And I think that's something that they didn't have a lot of on Bank, where if they lose map control, you have to instantly fill that position, or you have to contest it. We saw it like with Taro, for example, on bottom marble stairs. Whenever top floor was given to Shift, Taro decided to swing up marble stairs. It's just a leading example of the fact that they've changed that playstyle a little bit. Agony understand that all that they have to do is just play for as long as they can, and if they lose it, they lose it. Don't lose your bodies. Shift haven't adapted to that. They understand, or have understood, that as of recent, Agony were just kind of going around and getting over aggressive for no reason. We haven't been seeing that anymore. And like you said, it's a map where you can just go around and shoot people on. Agony haven't been doing that to great effect at the moment.
Really shocked we still have the tech pause going on. Maybe someone's PC died, perhaps. They got the blue screen of death, and they had to completely reset up everyone. Yeah, it must have been a hard disconnect. That's unfortunate show. You hate to see it. But I think until we get everything fully set up, we might go into a quick little break, as we don't know when this guy's coming back. So we'll return in just a little while to get the rest of Round 2 underway. Don't go anywhere.
Say I'm good-hearted, but I'm just getting started. Got my eyes on the target. No, till the battle's won, till kingdom come.
Yes.
I think our players are back. I think we're finally ready to go into map number 2. That was a good swing there. Jeez, I'm smooth. As we go into Villa, Agony, we kind of mentioned it. They might be down a map, or they might be down a round. They might be down a map as well. But don't let that fool you, as they've been on the upswing here in momentum.
Definitely a big difference between map 1 and 2. That is for sure. But I think Shift as well, after having a very long tech pause because of Agony having show disconnect, I think they've realized as well, all right, we can't not be taking Agony seriously at this point. We've got to step up our overall game plan and think about these rounds a bit more methodically. And for a site like Kitchen and Dining, this is going to be probably a very good, I guess, example of if Shift can actually do that. It almost looks like they're prepped to maybe go for a rush, so maybe I'll be proven wrong. But in terms of lineup, they do have what it would be necessary to play for Vert and then move a floor lower and go for more of like a basic laundry, going in for a Tetris plant kind of style. But I think they might try to go for a rush. The first nade is going to miss, but thankfully Senpai will evade it. Still, though, I don't think they're going to be backing down from this aggressive play style at all, Adam.
Absolutely non-shift. I mean, you mentioned it being their downfall. So far, they haven't, like you said, changed it up at all. Senpai is inside of pantry. And this is a dangerous position to play, and especially when you have intel on 2 of your players. That's not good. That's a very, very bad sign here for Shift. But if they're able to collapse on it properly with Devil maybe going inside of the room, now into Memo, this could be good, but now with TK down, it's just Devil to spearhead this attack all on his lonesome, and he will get traded. A proper crossfire there from Agony, and it's just back and forth now, though. Shift have claimed 3 bodies. How have they done that? The retake is unsuccessful as well, as Svak does not push with his teammate. It's just GP2 all by himself. 1 versus 3. Swinging on from Tetris, not a very favorable gunfight, especially when he's got 2 working in a crossfire against him. You can see 2 players inside of Tetris. That's 1 down, though. GP2 now going to rotate in. He's going to capitalize off of this. Will swing, but unfortunately, it will be Maple to rotate in to try it at the proper time. And off of a poor retake there, and off of poor sight handling, Shift are now to match point.
Yeah, normally when you have a rush like that happen, it's going to be more than 2 people, so I don't know why J-Tree was just shooting at a dead body trying to BM when there was still activity happening from Shift so close to the bomb site. That was kind of a bad decision. I'm not even going to try to sugarcoat that. That was just a dumb thing to do, especially when you've been the person who's been doing a lot of the heavy lifting on map number 2. 15, if not 16 kills, I think, for J-Tree. Yeah, 15. I was right the first time. This guy has been very make or break for a lot of rounds, no matter what. So having that player die is a huge sigh of relief for Shift. Even on rounds where he wasn't very proactive in terms of getting kills, still having someone less to worry about is something nice. And the fact that Shift just had that element of surprise to go for that rush, it was just enough. And it's kind of like what I mentioned earlier of when you want to go for that rotate, more or less for a linear kind of move from Memo leading into sight like that. You can kind of have that element of surprise, sort of. But a rush just does that tenfold, and it's either a make or break play. In that case, it was a barely make until we went in the post plant for Shift. But because of that very risky decision, they've got match and series points. So you can't be that mad at them, I suppose.
Now, fellow, I know we kind of went back and forth about this for a very long time, and I think we've brought it up as our main talking point here for Agony. Rotations. 3 players were spotted either in or around pantry, but where were the rotates? Agony just kind of stayed upstairs. They played really... They played like their intel wasn't there. They played like they didn't trust it at all. They were like, there's no way this is happening, right? Like, there's no way they're just going to walk up pantry. That's so silly. Pulse, you're stupid. But that's not what happened. They didn't trust their call, and Agony were, but Show, who is off a disconnect, by the way, fresh off a DC, switches out his internet and gets 2. Maybe it was the internet. 007 No More Show has been showing up as he claims a double. A very, very eventful one as well. Svak mistimes his, but doesn't matter. That's a trade where the only thing you've lost is utility. And there's no one on the side of Agony that is going to die in this position right now. They are completely safe. They're inside the site. But TK nearly finds one as he gets extremely aggressive here. Not sure if he has drones on this. I hope he does. But Agony, what a way to start.
And are they repositioning after finding kills? I cannot believe this. This has been a fantastic redemption arc to watch for Agony. I think the only thing that could be a problem is not knowing TK is actually so aggressive inside a library. This pulse might die. Nope, I think he had the one-up on that player, forcing another 1v4. And hey, look who it is last alive. It's Zers once again. I don't think we'll have him make that clean 1v4 clutch. He is able to at least isolate somebody. Case is gone, though. Not a fair amount of time left to get another set of 1v1 fights all down to win this one out. So there's a good chance, and I mean a pretty good chance, that Agony will fight for another round and bring us much closer to a potential of seeing overtime.
Yeah, and Agony, I mean, you said it. They repositioned. For the first time ever, they have changed their positions and restructured their defense. It was really well played there. We're finally getting communication. We're getting calls, and we're getting intel. Agony even playing a pulse pretty effectively. It claims Show 2 kills. And the fact that Agony had that player inside of library locked down. They had that call from earlier, I believe, whenever TK shot from red stairs. That's kind of where they knew that he was going to be inside of library. And they communicated it. They understood that position. You saw 2 players playing that library door. Even if Zvok didn't get that kill, there was a refrag waiting for him. That communication was just so effective, and it's finally winning Agony rounds, and it's won them yet another as it's 6-5. We go to round 12. It's like a completely brand new team. We saw 7 rounds to nothing on Bank, but now we're on to round number 12.
Yeah, really a night and day comparison for both Shift and Agony, honestly, because we're seeing much more, I guess, funnel-esque kind of positioning by Shift. They're not going for a lot of multifaceted approaches. They're just kind of pushing in from the same area and not expecting some sort of retaliation by Agony at all. And that's been upsetting because Shift were very manipulative against Agony a lot on map 1, and now it's been kind of the polar opposite, especially moving on this second half. Don't get me wrong, Villa is much more favorable to the defense for any standard team, but I don't feel like to this extent, really. There is a solid chance that we've got Agony bringing this one all the way to overtime before we see if we go to a third map or not, all the way to border, and then that leads to a whole slew of other questions, so I'll probably save that for when we actually get there, of course. But heading into a site like Living Room and Library, which was so favorable for Agony, again, because of the over-aggression by Shift, which we see numerous times here on their attacking half, and the great coordination by Agony, which has also been representative here on the second half for them. This is just a big scare for Shift, I could only imagine, unless they change something right now.
Yeah, I mean, we've pointed out what Agony have been doing right. Shift have also been doing a lot wrong. They've been trying to puncture this defense of Agony with aggressive plays, which has just not been Shift's real main focus. I mean, it hasn't really been what they did effectively on Bank to claim 6 attacking rounds in a row. It was their drone work. It was their communication. It was their style of taking map control in a coordinated fashion. This time around, Shift has the drone work, but not the coordination. There's a player inside of the basement, and Sho's going to be forced out of red. Senpai does not walk away with that gunfight victory. But again, what does Senpai know? That is what I'm curious about. What has Shift communicated to Senpai to make him walk up red? I'm hoping they have the proper drone work here, because otherwise he is a dead man. Unfortunately, for Shift, they do, and Senpai now going to make an individual play. But there's no one to push off of this. If Senpai gets this map control, he's going to basically have to stall out until the rest of Shift, hurt up the cavalry to make their way inside of sight. Shifters is very spread out right now, but they've also got a lot of map control. It is a bit loose, but it's there.
I think Sho was aware of Senpai's position a little while ago. He's, of course, moved a bit more towards the rest of his team, of course, so that intel will now change, especially if Sho can reposition too. There is still a presence on that top floor, but no one seems to mind it except for Zers. He wants to try to remove that, getting closer towards the skull doorway. Both Taro and Svok were on the prone position, but I think now they are wizened up perhaps to maybe try to counteract this middle floor presence, still holding down that vertical, but at any given moment, Zers can try to cause a ruckus, and that could maybe change things up. Still having that man advantage, the plant now going down. Svok with great coverage though, 2 secondary kills with that SMG-11. Taro gets explosive as well, but we're still in that post-plant position with Senpai and Devil trying to hold on and stop overtime.
Devil also has his back turn. This is really dangerous. I'm actually shocked he got that plant down to begin with, but now GP2 forcing the retake. It's a triple kill here for Zvok, but he is traded out, and it's a trade! Oh, so unfortunate as Agony have a player alive. What a way to send us into OT. Off of a 7-0 Bank. Agony play to the greatest I've ever seen them play. They make themselves known, and they really, really stepped it up a notch, fellow. We've got overtime.
And I've really got a question there for Shift. Why they didn't want to deal with the vertical pressure sooner? Maybe throwing out a smoke, or just, I don't know, having more than the Nook try to just slow walk up there to kill him. Anything but that could have been helpful. Maybe even going into 90, opening up the single wall on the top and throwing out a grenade because you are in the Nook who has grenades. That could have been an option too, instead of just sitting next to Skull Doorway and then having to deal with a castle barricade. That just seemed very counterintuitive of what Shift wanted to accomplish there on their attacking round for that living room defense. But now in a new environment, heading back to Aviator and Games, where the extension into Trophy and Statuary has been very problematic for Shift in the past, especially when there was a pulse on the board and they didn't have anybody clearing out that middle floor. If we see everybody just hop into Master and just kind of walk into the resources of Agony, we're bound to see another strong showing by them in the early bits of the action phase. again, unless there's some sort of change, unless there's some sort of reposition by Shift, which I'm not too confident that's going to really happen because they've been falling underneath the same tropes over and over again on this second map, Adam.
Yeah, and I know you kind of mentioned a while ago how Agony were the ones that weren't able to allocate resources properly and rotate. Now it's on the hands of Shift. They've been losing so many lives early, and they haven't had the time, they haven't had the drone work, and they haven't had the players left to try and just change up their attack. Like you mentioned, no one went top floor. No one went on the other side. Library presence completely non-existent except for Senpai making an individual play. Can't be having that. It's crazy to me that Agony's mistakes have now become Shift's on this attack, and now that Shift are on the attacking side on this overtime, if they can't correct this now, it's going to be dire straits for them. But it's going to be drone. I think GP2 will just be, completely locked out. As Zers claims that frag show, he might be looking for a refrag, but look at this. The individual plays, he slams through piano wall. What a way to go down there. As it's now a 5 versus 3 in Agony. They're starting to feel a little bit of the hurt there. Shift, we saw them over and over again on Bank and even early parts of Villa claim 2 opening frags, and they've been completely unanswered. Now, in the way that Agony have been playing, this should be completely different, but unfortunately they can't get it done as Senpai has made his way into sight. It's just down to Taro in a 1 versus 4, and Shift have somehow collapsed on top of Agony and Shift. A much-needed round. It's taken a long time, but they've got it done. 7-6 for them. They're on the match point. Fans in the North can finally breathe a little bit here.
Big sigh of relief. Would have to confirm that as well. I love the repositioning there on Red Stairs. I think it was by Senpai actually on the Ayana, especially because when you want to go for more of a main stairs and study kind of clear, 90 pressure is one of the biggest deterrents of getting that shelves control and not just funneling through study in that position. So I love the fact Senpai took a minute and was like, all right, I'm going to just work up red because that's the fastest way to get on the top floor and not go back to main stairs where the rest of my teammates are there in case they need somebody to refrag. That helped pressure out people in the site. And theoretically, if the call was made for Senpai to go push the smoke, he could have just did that too. And there would have been 2 angles locked in on Taro, who is not in a position to win both of them at the exact same time, of course. So I loved the team play there by Shift, and I really wish that we had Agony continue that buddy system because it did so well for them throughout a good chunk of that second half, and then it just went down the drain because Shift, for once, adapted and forced those hero plays, once again by Agony, which has not been a comfort zone for them. So I've also got to commend Shift on another thing, of forcing the uncomfortable positions once again for Agony to get around. That's very important for them right now to make sure map number 3 doesn't happen.
Yeah, and a lot of times Agony have just come down to individual plays. Oh, Devil! Why have you done that? On overtime, match point! The pressure is already on now as Shift have lost a player, and I believe they've lost a C4 as well. The IGL goes down. I guess he can call from heaven now, but that's such a rough start. And Shift, they've been getting super duper aggressive, and it's been very, very hit or miss. And if history is ever going to repeat itself, Agony will be able to snowball this one if Shift can't make something happen. Taro has got 2, and he's only outside of the windows. He's gotten all of this pressure from outside. It's just a 5 versus 2 now. TK and Maple, what do they have as an answer to Shift's mistakes? Devil, a spawn peek, and a miss. And that is 2 for Taro.
Agony able to clap back with a lot of resilience. Leaving only TK and Maple, like you had mentioned, left to stand. Oh, look at this, though. Maple's caught 1. Tries to find another one. Great patience, though. Got to admit, GP2 now gone, but the information is still there. So if we don't see another one by Maple, this could be deadly, but no, nobody checks for bathroom. There could have potentially been so much damage dealt, but no confirmation, and Show picks up the final one on a TK. A close call indeed, but still a win. Nonetheless here for the offense, and we're going the full distance as no one has gotten that 8th round just yet, Adam.
We're not there just yet. Not at the end of the line. It's going to take all 15 rounds to decide this one. And Shift, they're on the attack. It's been super shaky for them on Villa. But if there's anything to rely on in terms of map history, in terms of round history, you know that Shift are going to be aggressive. Now, fellow, I'm nervous. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little bit nervous because I know what Shift can do, but I also know what mistakes they can make. They've been very good when it comes to drone work. That's a guarantee. But whenever it comes to breaking down an extension from Agony, it has not been there. Shift have not been able to get upstairs and deal with the players that are holding angles onto the site. And whenever Agony decide to collapse onto Shift, it's always gone horribly wrong for the attack. So, we'll have to see if Shift can correct their mistakes. They've kind of become what Agony was in terms of making individual heroic plays, getting extremely aggressive, and having no trades, having no buddy systems.
10 seconds to go.
You're going to have to correct it right here, right now. We could be going to border, which was long a forgotten sort of destiny, as nobody believed that after a 7-0 on bank, we'd be here.
Attackers have located a bomb.
Honestly, yeah, I would not think so either. Theoretically speaking, could have been 3 7-0s, because we've had that number been coined a couple times now. But Agony going for the safest pick possible of going living room and library, which to someone who hasn't been watching the stream might have considered a head scratcher, but they've won both times playing this site, so at least they've got that going for them, statistically speaking. But they also haven't lost the opening fight this early on when playing on the site of living room, as I believe Sho just got caught in an awkward position, maybe off guard against that LMG in the hands of Zerg. So that's going to be something nice for Shift to start off in the right direction, but there's still such a tall hill to climb. Plenty of roam game still established by Agony. That top floor presence, that was problematic the last time living room was in play. So if we have Shift just automatically assume they're going to get this round for free because they're in a 5-on-4, they have got another thing coming, to say the least.
Yeah, and like you said, the top floor control is just going to become so potent, and especially because Shift are going for such a linear take. I'm not sure if they're going to rotate up. I really have no idea. It doesn't seem like that's in their plans. Now, they were able to get the case down last time, but God forbid they lose so many bodies as they did last time, because Agony, they played this really, really well, and GP2 is also going to be a big mediator for how this goes, as he is sitting bottom red right now.
Located by attackers.
Now Shift. Choices need to be made here. They need to clear the utility off the wall first. But is this just going to be another linear take with Senpai playing Red Hall and just playing the holes against Agony? Is that going to work as well is the question. J-Tree, he's going to be a big factor as well. 16 kills to his name, and he's gotten very aggressive and has not been afraid to take a fight or two if it means holding down the site. A minute 15 remaining. Shift will get their drone work in, and they'll realize that their top floor presence is basically most of the defense here for Agony, and Svok is going to make that known as he gets a kill from above.
Unfortunately, now a minute left. Thankfully, Maples finds something. Plank going down. Not too sure Agony is aware of this, though. There's no denial here. Plenty of coverage as well. GP2, though, going on a flank. Bottom red from the basement. This could find something, but the drone spots him out, so this position is now well known by the offense. Still having that slight man advantage, and to the post plant, the timer no longer favoring Agony. Svok will fall, and so does Taro, leaving just GP2, and once again, his position was well known at this point. Maple, the final kill of this matchup, and we're not going to border, despite it being so close. Between Shift and Agony, looks like Shift will finally send Agony home with empty hands, as they will manage to scrape away this victory 8-7.
It was a close one, and it was a fun one. We saw the improvement there from Agony, and it makes me a little bit excited coming into the rest of the season as we have a team that has improved. It's a rarity nowadays. It really is. It's a rarity just to see a team adapt over time. We actually saw that a lot, and I'm really proud of Agony and the way that they played on Villa. We need more of that, man. If you're listening, good job. Round of applause. It wasn't the biggest of losses. It wasn't the 7-0 that you had on bank. I'm proud of you guys. So it was a close game. It was a really, really good finale there on Villa, but Shift just had the upper hand. And what we saw last time, they got the plant down inside of living, not meeting. They got the plant down inside of living, and they kind of just walked in. They somehow found a little rat hole to nullify that entire upstairs presence. We saw it be a presence early in the round where I believe it was Svok who was able to get a kill from above. But in the end of the day, it didn't matter because the plant went down, and that was the important part, and that was really well played there because that time Shift didn't overextend. They didn't go into uncharted territory, and they got their attack.
Yeah, it only makes sense why that was the map pick of Agony. They really did seem confident and more or less comfortable in comparison to Bank. Maybe that'll be a target ban moving on, because they still need a lot to figure out on that map. But like you and I have now mentioned a couple of times, they did really good on Villa. But with all that being said, that is, of course, the final matchup of the night. We really appreciate you guys all spending your late night here with us at CCL, powered by Northern Arena. Once again, big hearts to them. But I guess we got to shout ourselves out at this point before we head off. You know, you as well, Jazzman Cass, and then also myself at Fellow the Caster. And then we had, I believe I want to get the pronunciation correct, Clister Clear. We had Brandon, of course. That's the easy one. But then, of course, Capitano as well, both observation and producing, both of the two. And then we also had Gooby as well, running admin stuff. So that's nice. But all that being said, hope you all have a great rest of your night, and to see you all again Monday for more CCL action here with the Northern Arena. Have a good night, everybody.